It's a 1 to 6 player game, and it takes roughly, it says here, 2 hours to play. So is it like an Indiana Jones style adventure game, or how does this all play out?
Indeed, yeah. We're all members of a secret society known as the Eternal Order of Perseus, and it is our job to protect the world from the coming of this tomb. And this lost tomb appears every 113 years, and when it does, it appears somewhere random, weird, that we don't know in the world somewhere. We have to find it, and we have to make sure that nothing gets out and nothing is stolen from the tomb, depending on what can go in. So every scenario is unique. It's not a campaign-based game. It's a scenario-based game. You pick a story scenario and you play with 1 to 6 players.
Cool. Okay. Sounds like fun. I do have a tabletop simulator room set up. Are you able to find me on the server browser?
I think you're going to need to find me on the server browser
Okay.
because it's an updated new prototype for you. You're probably in the old one.
Oh, yes. I'm whatever one was available there. So let's see here.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, mine is not shown up yet on the workshop. I still have it unlisted while we're just doing demos with it.
Gotcha. Is the server name the Epic Tome or Tomb?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. All right, connect. Awesome. And then there's the server password.
Epic.
Epic. Lowercase?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I am joining, hopefully.
Yes, indeed.
Cool. So this is like the private demo.
That's right.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. It'll take a couple of seconds to load here.
Yeah, no worries.
So while I'm doing that, your name is Chris, and you're the president of Everything Epic. Is that correct?
Yep. President, owner, founder, game designer. We do it all.
Gotcha. And this isn't your first rodeo either. I saw that you did a couple of other projects, including, was it Rambo, the board game?
Yeah, this is our 25th crowdfunding campaign, second on GameFound. We did 23 on Kickstarter. And yeah, we've done Rambo, the board game, Big Trouble in Little China, the game, Agents of Smirsh, Coma Ward, Metal Dawn, all kinds of unique and interesting games. We did the Vampire the Masquerade, Blood Feud, the Mega board game. Yeah, we've done a lot of stuff, and now we're back in the tomb with Secrets of the Lost Tomb.
Cool. All right. So at its heart, what kind of mechanisms are at play here? Is this like there's like tile laying games and you explore tiles, or is there a worker placement? Like, what are the different things that you can do in this?
This is a cooperative adventure game where
Okay.
you are going to be exploring the tomb. You will have random tiles that you'll be exploring. You'll be upgrading your character, possibly getting messed up and hurt by things that you'll find in the tomb. You'll be fighting creatures, and you'll be reading from the story scenarios and the adventure cards. Every scenario is fully story-based with unique story encounters that will spawn organically as you explore and go through the tomb.
Okay. Sounds like fun. And it looks like we each have a character as well, which is kind of cool. And it looks like they each have possibly different abilities or special abilities, different attributes.
Every character is unique in the game. Every item, every room tile, everything is pretty much unique. So there's tons and tons of variation. You happen to choose Heidi DuPont, who is one of the only characters in the game that starts the game with an artifact card. Heidi begins the game with the Necronomicon itself.
Oh, okay.
So you can summon creatures and use them to do your bidding. But if you fail your upkeep check, they can spawn in your room and attack the players. So it's kind of a little bit of a potential pressure luck on that, but it's a little bit dangerous, but very fun.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. So each episode is like different. Each scenario is different. And each one takes roughly 2 hours. Are they the same difficulty? Are there easier scenarios compared to some other ones?
If you look here in the scenario book, you'll see that they'll say what their difficulty is here,
Okay.
their play time, the boss creature, the setup. It's all right here in the scenario.
Cool.
And if you go to other scenarios, you'll see that the difficulty level will change. You'll get different play times possibly. It all depends on the length of the scenario itself. So this one's a little bit longer and so on. So they kind of give you an idea of what you're playing. They don't connect in any way. All the scenarios are completely individual. You pick the one you want to play and you go for it.
Cool. Okay. All right. So how does a typical turn play out?
So I dealt you 6 action tokens in your hand. You can go ahead and I can actually grab them for you and put them here for you.
Sure.
You spend an action token on your turn and you in the beginning of the game, you almost always begin exploring the tomb and trying to discover what's out there. But the first thing you do in the game is you read the story, the opening story mission briefing, and then the strategy section, which will give you the idea of what you're trying to actually do in the game itself.
Okay.
So we can go ahead and I'll read you the story. And then we could jump right in.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking at it now.
Yeah, I'll read it aloud to you, and then we'll jump in and we'll take actions. And I'll teach you each thing as we go through each individual action. Now, this scenario book here is the old scenario book.
Okay.
Of course, all the icons, artwork, all that stuff is updated. So you'll see some old stuff in this one, but it's going to all be updated in the final version as well.
Okay.
All right. The Eternal Order of Perseus has just received word that an ancient prophecy is about to come to pass. An EOP team recently explored and photographed a burial chamber in southern Egypt, finding a collection of glyphs which tell the story of the great pharaoh Ras-Azula-Hamet ruling over Egypt and the entire Mediterranean for over 333 years. Ras-Azula-Hamet enacted his warped desires, building his empire on the backs of slaves. Sickened by his deranged ways, the great pharaoh's own advisors used the power of the gods to finally put him to rest. Because of Raz's unearthly powers, he could not be killed. So the advisors knew they had to bind him forever with the 3 potent talismans. And so they did, or so they believed. The spell Ras-Azula-Hamet has been held under for thousands of years is now about to wear off. The glyphs tell of where and when he will be resurrected. The place is in the tomb on Island X, and the time is only 2 days from now. Your team will travel by seaplane southeast toward the Caribbean and to the tomb. Your first known objective is to find the Staff of Ra, one of the potent talismans. Without these talismans, it would be near impossible to prevent Ras-Azula-Hamet from escaping the tomb and imposing his power and influence over the world. And great power he has.
All right.
And then we read the strategy section, which is slightly thematic, but mostly informational to give us an idea of what we should be doing. We must defeat Ras-Azula-Hamet. When he awakens, the potent talismans will help us combat him. These artifacts are the Staff of Ra, the Ruby Scarab, and the Cowl of Anubis. They are more easily found deeper in the tomb, but beware. Some rooms will contain elite creatures. We have 6 rounds to find these artifacts, bolster our defenses, and prepare for the coming of Ras-Azul. We must be vigilant. When Ras-Azula-Hamet awakens, he will try to escape the tomb and take over the world. Every creature in the tomb will be an obstacle, blocking us from Ras as he escapes. He will stop to kill one of us, but then he will move as quickly as possible along the shortest route out of the tomb. The moment Ras leaves, we will have failed. All right. So you're going to be the first player. We're going to jump right in. Heidi DuPont, you're going to flip over one of your action tokens here to show that you've taken an action.
Okay.
And then you are going to move up to your max movement. You have 3 movement at the beginning of the game. If you look at your character, the stats are all the way down here. Strength, dexterity, knowledge, mythos, and movement. So you can move up to 3. And once you move through one of these open doorways, your movement ends, and that's when you will explore a new tile.
Gotcha. Okay. Is it important to stay together? Is it important to split up? Or what's the typical... Because this is giving me Betrayal at House on the Hill vibes. Just, exploring tiles and rooms and different things like that. So I'm wondering, is there like a traitor mechanic down the line that we're not aware of? Or are we all always going to work together? Meaning we should always stay together.
It is a fully cooperative game. There's no traitor mechanics at all in the game.
All right.
There are benefits sometimes to splitting up, but there's also a lot of benefits of staying together. This game has a lot of cooperative mechanics. It has an outnumber bonus. If you outnumber the creatures in a room, you get a bonus for that. Also, you both regain special awards for defeating creatures when you're in the same room together. But also, if you split up, you can explore bigger ground. So you can kind of explore different floors and do different things like that.
Okay.
And of course, kind of how you play is going to depend on the scenario. This particular scenario, again, wants us to explore the tomb and find artifacts. So we really kind of need to explore and look for the specific things. When combat happens, we can always come and catch up with each other and try to help each other. So, we get to move every turn. We get 12 actions collectively before the end of the round. So creatures don't get to attack until at the end of the round when they have a tomb phase where we draw a tomb card. So for now, it's all up to us.
Okay. And is there a time limit? Like, can we take our time and explore and reveal tiles slowly together to be safe? Or, as you said, there may be tomb cards that get drawn, which are, I'm guessing, bad. And I'm guessing after a while they get harder or the game ends? Or how does that all work?
Yeah, so basically you will have, in this particular scenario, it says inside of the strategy section that you get about 6 rounds possibly.
6 rounds.
To win. And if you look at the scenario trigger effects, Comet Track 6, the Great Pharaoh Awakens. So that's something you'll know. And what we usually do is we'll take a cube and we will place the cube on round 6 to show that we have 6 rounds approximately to get to there. Now, the tomb cards could possibly, I'll show you an example, the tomb card here. At the bottom, it says Comet Track +1. So they can possibly go usually about 1, but sometimes they can go 2 on hard mode where you use hard ones. And sometimes once in a blue moon, you get lucky and it's 0. So it gives you an extra round. You never quite know. But generally speaking, we have about 6 rounds to do this.
All right. So if I just go up with my character, is there a room? Okay, so it's one of those room cards. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so this particular room tile has a level 3, so you can only work on level 3. Level 3 is inactive, so you can't go there, so we'll draw the next one.
I see.
So the next one says just level 1. So we found the Shrine of Fertility, and you go in that room, and then we look at the icon to see what it does. This particular one is a misadventure. So we'll draw a story card, and we would read the misadventure side. If it was an adventure, we'd flip it, and we would read the adventure side. All right, so thick air, fields of damp miasma as you track a trail of blood along a stone floor. You find its source, a giant puddle of greenish, moldy-looking blood with strange mushrooms growing out of it. Now you have to make a mythos check. That's what that icon means. So you're going to go ahead back to your character, and you're going to check your mythos score. You happen to have a very high mythos. You have a 5. So you'll roll 5 dice, and you're looking for 5s and 6s. 5s and 6s are successes on the dice.
Okay.
So you count up your 5s and 6s. That's how many successes you got. You got 1. So we would look here at the misadventure card. You only needed 1, so you would pass. When you pass a check, you read the middle of the card, and when you fail, you read the bottom. So you realize that these are not mushrooms. These are Trinidad toadstools, known to attack with acidic spores that can melt a man in half. You back away slowly and stay away forever. And you gain 1 courage. So you'll raise your courage here, 1 up on that horseshoe-like track. So this will move up here. And anytime your courage goes up above one of these thresholds, you will gain temporary stat bonuses or other unique abilities based on wherever the track is. So for instance, if you were at +4, you get +1 knowledge temporarily while it's here. If you go up to 7, you get 1 knowledge and 1 mythos. And if you get all the way to 10, you get a one-time big bonus. This is a +1 companion card that you would draw to come and help you.
Cool.
And then if you go all the way down to the bottom, you begin to lose stats as you get more scared, you begin to kind of be able to not concentrate as well. You lose little stats, and if you get all the way to -10, you will flee the tomb. And if you flee the tomb, every turn, on your turn, you actually have to move as fast as you can toward the entrance. And if you ever leave the entrance, your character actually is then gone. And then you would spawn a new character, start from the beginning of the tomb, unless the boss has spawned. If the boss has spawned already, then you're out of the game.
Gotcha. Okay.
But at that point, it's already pretty much the end game. So.
Gotcha. And I'm guessing the middle track is health, and if you lose health, you're dead.
That's right. Yeah. So the heart here is health. This is audacity above that. Okay. Audacity is basically you pushing your character a little bit extra to the limit. You spend a point, and you can re-roll any roll in the game, the full roll. Or you can spend a point before you roll to succeed instead on a 4, 5, or 6. You could also spend multiple in one turn. So if you wanted to spend 1 to make it an easier check, 4, 5, or 6, and then you might need to re-roll later, you can do that.
Okay, fair enough. All right.
All right. So that was your turn with a little extra rules explanation.
Okay.
So now I'm going to flip over an action for Bianca. Bianca Sinclair has a 5 movement. She's fast. She's a cat burglar. So she is going to go downstairs. I'm going to leave you all alone here.
Okay.
And I'm going to go down here to level 2. Level 3 is blocked off. We can't get there, but we can explore level 2. The strategy section said that if we explore deeper in the tomb, we have a better chance of finding the potent talismans. That doesn't mean they're not up there, but it does mean you have a better chance of finding them down here. So I'm going to come down here and try to find some. I'll spawn a tile. This is level 1, so it gets discarded. This is a level 3. This is a 1, 2, 3. All right, so I'm going to go there. This is Davy Jones's locker. We're going to line it up so the doors line up with it. I'll go in here. Now, this tile says when you explore it, this is the bottom. You always do the bottom exploration first. It's when you explore, you get +1 spirit shard. So we would move this track here up 1. That's a communal pool of currency that we use to buy services and items and things from a mysterious creature called the Spirit Monger. He also summons spirits to help us. In this particular scenario, he summoned Cleopatra to help us. And there's a whole side story and some other mechanics based on the Spirit Monger that we haven't yet gone over yet in this scenario. I'm just focusing on the core rules for you right now, but I can talk a little bit about the Spirit Monger when it comes up when we get a little more spirits in a few. So we gain the spirit, and then my character will gain the status effect Targeted. So I would search the status effect deck for the Targeted status here. And Targeted says, basically, if there's ever a chance, if there's ever a choice between fighting me or another adventurer, they're going to choose me. So that's basically how that works.
Okay.
All right. And then we also got a misadventure. So then, just like you, I'm going to have a misadventure card. Now, because it's my turn, you can read the card if you'd like.
All right. You hear a list of crimes being read to an ethereal crowd. An accused man is about to get beheaded right before you. You try to think of what to do, and it looks like you have to pass some kind of knowledge check.
That's right.
Okay.
So I forgot to give my character my starting items. So let me give my character their weapons here. So they have stuff.
Okay.
They have a gun and a whip. Very Indiana Jonesy.
Nice.
All right. So the card we read now is a knowledge card. So I need to roll knowledge. So I have 2 dice for knowledge. So we're going to roll 2 dice and see how we do. Let's see. Unfortunately, I failed. So I'm going to spend an audacity. I'm going to re-roll the roll.
Okay.
And now I got a 5. So now I succeeded. Cool. So now we'll read the middle.
The accused man is William Wallace. You jump into action, rushing the crowd. You manage to intervene, giving Wallace's men enough time to jump in and free him. After you escape the city together, you awaken, and you gain Courageous.
Cool. So I might be targeted, but I'm also Courageous. Courageous is a good status effect, and it says when you gain courage, you double it, round it up, and possibly on upkeep I might lose it. So we'll see how it goes.
Okay.
Cool. A really good thing. Misadventures don't normally give good things, but this one just so happened to give a good thing. So that was cool.
All right.
We discard that, and then back to you.
All right. And, okay, so I'm over here. And is there a reason then to explore the first floor? I mean, if there's better chance of exploring and getting stuff on the second floor, do you still find ways to improve your character on the first floor? Like to build up your character, make them stronger?
Yes, you do.
Okay, all right. So if I can move 3, I guess I'll head somewhat your direction, go 1, 2, and then down to explore a new room here.
Sure. That's another 3, and this is a 1, 2, 3. So for here, I think you found the armory. In the armory, you search the item deck and you take the first strength weapon. So we found the machete, which for some reason doesn't have art on it right now.
That's okay.
The serrated dagger. So you could pick one of these. The other one gets discarded.
All right. So I'm guessing the machete is just +2 attack against the monster.
Yep.
And +1 whenever you're rolling for a misadventure?
Yeah, you got it.
Okay. You have a recommendation? I mean, it looks like the machete's pretty good, but... Your
character is not generally great at strength. Unless you lost the Necronomicon somehow, which is technically possible.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very not probable. You would then have to resort to strength as like a hand-to-hand. So whichever one would give you more combat, I would recommend for your character, because your character has only a 1 strength. They're not really a hand-to-hand fighter. So I would recommend probably the machete. +2 to combat.
Sounds good to me.
One of the misadventures, so it's useful even if you don't use combat.
Right. Okay. I guess that would be over here. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. All right. So that was cool, and then you also get an adventure card.
Right. Okay.
So let's see. Though you can't see it, you hear a sword fight somewhere in this room. You find a strange pair of goggles on a pedestal and put them on. Make a mythos check. Wow, you're getting lucky with these good mythos checks.
Yeah. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And let's see. So 6, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1 pass. Yeah.
Perfect. As you don the goggles, you see pirates and other sailors fighting all around, flintlocks firing, cannons booming, and sabers clanging. Through the heat of the battle, you notice a fallen man with an ancient map, which will help you on your quest, +1 mythos. So you get +1 permanent mythos. You're going to take a token here, and you're going to put it there on your character sheet, showing that you gain +1 permanent mythos. So now you have a 6 mythos until the end of the game.
Wow. Okay. That's good for me.
Cool. Nice. All right. So as you can see, there is still some good reasons to go around on the first floor.
Right. I'm just getting lucky.
Yeah, that's kind of the name of the game, and that's what makes the game so replayable, because you're never quite sure what's going to happen, which is, again, part of the fun. And one of the biggest parts of the fun, in my opinion, is the story. And so while you're exploring, you're going to experience interesting, weird stories that are going to happen, as well as specific stories from the scenario.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right, so I don't make it too hard on you when you come down here. I'm going to kind of explore out the little section here.
Okay.
So that you don't have to walk as far. Uh-oh, the ceiling spike trap. So it's actually a bad thing, but it's a good thing that I found it, because my character is a cat burglar and a trap master. So
okay.
That's my special ability. So on a trap with a trap icon here, you would make the check that it says, this particular trap only has one trigger. So it'll only happen once. But if you ever get a trap with multiple triggers, you just put a token on it for each trigger. And every time a player walks in there, it triggers. And then they have to try to avoid it. Okay. So this one is a knowledge check. My character only has a 2 knowledge, but I have the whip, which gives me +2 to trap checks, and I'm a trap master, so I get +3 more to trap checks, which is cool. So I'm actually going to get 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 dice against traps.
Okay, right? Gotcha. So that +1, +2, that's just how many more dice you can roll. I get you. Okay.
Right, yeah. Your stats, pretty much, you're always rolling whatever your stat says, plus whatever the bonus is. So this one gives you +2 to traps. This one, and my personal asymmetrical special abilities, I'm good against traps.
Gotcha.
So I got 1, 2, 3 successes. So I would pass the trap check. This is now triggered. Nothing else bad can happen to players. I also have a special ability that says action, roll a dexterity check, and then I can remove a trap token trigger for every success I get, which is pretty cool. So if there were multiple triggers there, I'd be able to disarm trap triggers, which is neat. If I wanted to.
That's neat. Okay.
So that's kind of just what this character is good at. And that's my turn. Back to you.
Okay. So being here, I'll go 1, 2, I guess down again here for 3.
Sure. You are actually exploring very smartly, because it'll get you downstairs, and ideally you'll be able to explore when you get down there.
Yeah, I'm hoping.
Not smart. That's good. Okay, so you found El Dorado. Now, this one is draw the top 2 items, and then you discard 1. So let's see what you get. Let's draw. You got a Luger pistol and an M1A1 rifle.
Wow. Okay.
So these are more guns, interestingly. Sometimes there's healing items and armor and different things. You just happen to find this.
Gotcha. Is there any sort of ammo, or I can just use them as much as I want?
Use them as much as you want, unless the card says upkeep. If it has upkeep, that's simulating the idea that at the end of the round, you might be out of ammo. But you never run out of ammo like mid-round or anything like that.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, it says two-handed. I'm guessing characters can only hold 2 hands worth of weapons. Is that?
Yeah, so let's say, for instance, my character here had this gun, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And I had the other 2 items. I would have to choose between using these 2 or this one. I would have to choose. But I can hold unlimited items, but I would have to choose between them.
Okay. Well, it sounds like I'll keep the rifle then, because I don't think my character...
It is a better item, for sure.
Yeah.
And you can never mix stats. So you can't use one strength weapon and one dex weapon. You have to choose between the stats, make your combat roll with that one stat.
Well, I have a machete. Does that mean I should have taken the one-handed weapon to keep?
No, you still can't mix dexterity and strength. So if you had like the machete and the serrated dagger, you could actually use both of them at the same time, if that makes sense.
Okay, so I can, but even still, there's still that limit of. So I have to get rid of the machete then, because one's two-handed.
You don't have to get rid of anything. It's when you go to do combat, you'll then choose one of your items or multiple items to use.
Oh.
You have unlimited items in the game.
I see. So you just have them in your backpack. You can only use that many. I see.
That's correct. When you go to do combat, you'll then pick the things that you want to use, and you'll create your dice pool based on the stuff you pick.
All right, makes sense.
Yeah. All right. And then it's an adventure room. You find another adventure room. You're actually finding a lot of good, really positive rooms.
That's good.
Nice.
You're being nice to me. Okay.
Listen, I did not stage this deck. It's totally random. That little box, this thing here is automatically randomized. The cards are randomized. I did not stage it.
Oh, cool. All right.
Yeah. You're lucky.
Yeah. Well,
While looking around this room, you find some arrows. You follow the arrows to an X marked in the wall, where you discover a secret lever. Pulling it, you reveal an antechamber filled with gold, treasure, and jewels. Roll knowledge.
all right. My knowledge is a 5, so I have to take 5 dice and roll them. Let's see. Move those out of there.
There you go.
All right. 6, 3. Okay, so I got 1 success on that.
Yep. We don't fail here. Luckily, just in time, you recognize this treasure is trapped. You disarm the trap and take a valuable artifact. You make note to come back to this room later for the rest of the treasure. Very rarely do you ever get to draw a random artifact in the game. So before I let you do that, I'm going to put aside the artifacts we're supposed to have put aside at the beginning of the scenario. I just didn't do it to save time. So you got super lucky here. These are the artifacts that we're looking for. Okay. So it says in the scenario to set them aside. I just haven't done it yet. Okay. But now I have it. So you would these are the Ruby Scarab, the Cal of Anubis, and the Staff of Ra. Now you got a random item, a random artifact, and these are super powerful. You found the Amulet of Lin. You're immune to all status effects, including positive ones as well. Okay. But honestly, the negative ones are way worse than to prevent all status effects is really good. So you take that, you have it by your character.
Okay.
Let's say you wanted to give it to me or something. If we're in the same room, you can spend an action to trade. Or if you want for free, you could drop it on the floor in the tomb. So just so you could drop items and things on the floor and then you can give them to other people.
Okay, sounds fair.
Just telling you for fun. I actually don't need the item. I'm just saying.
Okay, no, I appreciate it. Every little bit of information is helpful.
Yep. All right. So let's explore another room. Let's try to find a scenario triggered effect room.
Okay.
We found one. I knew it. All right. So this is the Catacombs of the Crusades. Oh, actually, I really wanted to explore here to make it easier for you.
That's fine.
As I'm going to. Catacombs of the Crusades. This is a scenario trigger 1 room, and on exploration, I gain +1 permanent strength. So exploration, you always do first.
Okay.
So I'll give me +1 permanent strength. And then we will read scenario trigger 1. So we would go to the section in the scenario trigger effects, and it says scenario trigger 1, unleash the curse of the mummy. Read 1.1. All right. The Curse of the Mummy. All around the room, there are engravings, hieroglyphics, and ancient relics from the age of Egyptian empires. They mention Ras Hamet many times. As you search these history for clues, you wake something from its deep slumber. Its disembodied blue eyes flash in the darkness, and loud maniacal laughter echoes in the depths of your mind, mesmerizing you for a moment. You try to resist. You attempt to resist the curse. Roll Mythos. So, unlike you, my character only has a 1 in Mythos.
Okay.
So I have to try to resist this with a 1. Let's see how we do. Womp. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use an Audacity. I do not want to be cursed. And I'm cursed. All right. I'll just take the curse.
It happens. This is for demonstration purposes, so you can do whatever you want, technically. So
I tried not to be cursed. But cool, I actually get to show you the curse. It's actually better. So the Curse of the Tomb, -1 to all checks. And when you get a story card, it's always a misadventure. And when you gain this, you lose all current Audacity points. And I'm pretending like I didn't know, otherwise I'd roll my last Audacity.
Oof.
So, yep, very nasty.
Can you get rid of curses and the like?
So yeah, so you can use an action to rest. And when you rest, you roll a dice to try to get rid of the curse.
I see.
So in this instance, I would have to spend an action to rest later.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right. That was my turn. Back to you.
All right. So I'm here. So if I... well, if I go 1, 2... I could go to the left then, right? To explore that?
Exactly.
Okay.
All right. You found the Sword in the Stone room. Now, this is an Excalibur search room here, this artifact search. That means on a future turn, you can spend an action to do an artifact search. That means you must spend your current you have to roll dice equal to your current audacity score, which for you is a 2 currently. And if you pass, you get that artifact mentioned. So you'd get Excalibur. You'd pull the sword from the stone.
Oh, geez.
If you fail, you cannot reroll. You cannot use audacity. Instead, you would lose 2 audacity, and you cannot try again. So it's a little bit of a challenging roll. However, as you can already see, artifacts are very powerful and worth it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something you would do on a future action if you wanted to.
Gotcha.
But first, it's time for Scenario Triggered Effect 2. So in Scenario Triggered Effect 2, it says 2 or 3 the first time you find the Staff of Ra. So we found the first potent talisman. In the center of this room, there is a strange platform, and on it sit 3 huge sarcophagi shaped in the likeness of the great Sun King Ra. On the centermost sarcophagus, Ra's hands are crossed over his chest, holding the legendary Staff of Ra. This is what you've been searching for. What luck! Pulling with all of your might, you yank the staff from the once pristine coffin, and as soon as you remove it, the lids of the coffins float up in the air, releasing plumes of horrid fumes, and then smash to the floor. Out of the coffins emerge 3 huge reanimated mummies. This can't be happening. The legends are true. So we will now spawn 3 Keepers of the Tomb, which are base creature mummies here. And once we defeat them, we will then gain the Staff of Ra. All right. So that was... Oh, I'm sorry. They go in your room.
Oh, you're fine.
You found them. So once we defeat them, we would get the Staff of Ra here. And... that was your turn. You can't attack yet, and they won't attack you yet. So on my turn, I'm going to come in there and help you. So I can help fight. So I move in here on my turn, and that's my turn. So just moving in is my turn, and then it's back to you.
I see. So just you can't move and attack. It's just you can only do one action.
That's correct.
Okay. So I guess I should attack then, just to try and eliminate them. Are there counterattacks in this game? Like, do they fight back if I attack them? Or...
Yes, indeed. Yeah, I'll go through the whole combat rules with you now. Really, they're actually quite simple.
Okay.
The first thing I always say to learn about the combat in this game, the most important rule is combat is always exactly the same, whether it's on your turn and you're doing the combat, or it's on the tomb phase and the creature's combating you. So it's always the same, okay?
Okay.
Here's the steps. I'm going to bring a creature by your character sheet to go over it.
Okay.
All right. So the first thing you do is you pick a creature, and the first thing you do is you're going to get attacked by their courage attack. So this creature has a 2 courage combat score, so they're going to deal you 2 courage damage right off the bat because creatures are scary.
Okay.
So it's going to go down by 1, 2. Now, when you defeat the creature, you will regain some courage, but right now you lost a little bit.
Okay.
Then you're going to create your combat dice pool. So first, you're going to choose the weapon that you want to use. Now, weapons are always items that have a gold attribute icon at the top left, or multiple icons possibly. So right now you have a strength weapon, a dexterity weapon, and a mythos weapon here that you can use for combat. So what you would have to look at is your attribute score stat. Mythos is your best, which is 6. Or for you right now, because you have this rifle, technically you could use dexterity. It's a 1, but that would also equal a 6 because you have a +5 here. And you have to choose which one you'd prefer to use, and then you'll make dice based on that. So which one do you think you want to use?
I would probably use the rifle, just because I love the flavor text on the bottom.
Cool. Yeah.
A little Star Wars reference there, but okay.
Yeah, that's right. You got it.
So that would mean I get 6 dice then, because...
Yeah, you get 6 dice.
1 for my core dexterity, but +5 because of the monster attack modifier. Okay.
That's correct. Yeah, so roll 6 dice, and you look for successes. Again, 5s and 6s. Now, if you want to, before you roll, you can spend an audacity to make your successes a 4, 5, or 6, if you so desire.
Okay. Is the creature health... Oh, it's 5. Okay, so I need to get 5 successes to kill it?
Creature health is 5. The creature's combat score is a 3. When you will take damage, depending on the difference between your successes and the creature's combat score. So if, let's say, you only roll 2 successes, you would take 1 damage, and the creature would take 2 damage.
Okay, I think I got that. It's going to take a minute to get used to that.
Yeah, no worries.
Mm-hmm. So, do you think I should spend the audacity just to try and make my attempt easier?
Well, it's the first creature in the game. You only have 2 audacity.
Maybe I'll wait.
I would probably save it for really bad rolls, for rerolls.
Okay, sounds good. So 5s and 6s is what I'm looking for.
Yeah,
I got
really
3.
well. Yeah, that's very good. So you would get 3 successes against his 3 combat score. That means you've equaled it or was greater than. That means you take no damage and he takes 3.
Okay, gotcha. So
Right, now,
the number of successes that I roll is always damage to him, but the amount of damage I received is based off of that subtraction.
You got it.
Gotcha. Okay.
100%. Yep.
Okay. So 3
And
damage
then,
to him, so he's down to 2.
That's right. So we would take a couple of tokens here and track his damage here.
I see. Okay.
All right. Cool. Then it would go back to Bianca Sinclair. So I'm going to attack the same creature as you to try to knock him out. So I'm going to lose 2 courage. I'm going to create my combat score based on my 2 weapons and my dexterity here. So I get +3, +1. So I get 4. +4 is 8 dice.
Wow. Okay.
All right. Oh, you haven't seen anything yet with the dice. It's a lot more dice. So we're going to roll this. All right. So
wow.
My roll is horrific. It's really bad. That's no successes. No audacity left. No rerolls potential here. Really, really junky. And technically I got -1 to a check. I actually rolled 1 extra die, but it doesn't matter because I got no successes anyway. So here's what happens. I would take 3 damage. So this would go down 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Creature takes no damage. And because I rolled a 1, at least 1, and I took damage, we trigger the creature's special ability. So the Keepers of the Tomb, they're not super tough. But they have a mean special ability, and it's the slowed status effect. Okay. So as if I need another status effect, I get the slowed status effect, which means I lose 2 movement and 2 dexterity while I have it.
Wow.
It's really nasty.
Okay.
All right. So, wonderful. So that was my really junky combat.
Well, it happens. Again, we're demonstrating the game, so if you have to re-roll just for demonstration, that's fine.
No. It happened.
I was wondering what these different symbols meant on the dice, and now I see the matching icon there. The triangle with the meteor on it matches the... I see. There's also a hat on number 5, so I'm guessing that'll come...
That means it's a regular success.
Success. Okay.
Yep, and then the little Tommy gun is a critical success. Now, critical hits always go through armor. So if a creature ever has armor, they will block that many damage equal to the armor that are regular successes. But 6s always hit, and 1s trigger special abilities. 2s and 3s usually don't do much unless somebody says like roll a die and on this number do a thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's how that goes. Now I'm going to teach you a completely different mechanic that we didn't do at the beginning of the game, and I like to do this during demos to show you something cool, especially in low player counts.
Okay.
So one of the things that scales the game to number of players is actions, and the second thing are companions. So at the beginning of the game, with this number of players, you and I would actually start with 2 companions each.
Oh,
okay. Now, companions give us extra health and some kind of a cool special ability of some sort, okay? So for your companions here, you've got Katarina Fedikov and Earl Hawk, and they would give you an additional 10 and 17 hit points each, and they have unique one-time per round abilities, which is pretty cool. But one of the most important things, other than giving you potentially extra health, that they do is they add to your party. And so because you and I are in the room together, there's 6 of us now. Instead of just 2, there's actually 6 effectively.
Wow.
But we don't have to run multiple characters. We're running these companions with us just to make it easier to run individual characters and lower player counts. It's a little bit faster and easier that way. So because we're 6, we have an outnumber bonus against the creatures. So when your party outnumbers the amount of creatures in the room, you get +1 die for every outnumber you are to the amount of creatures in the room. So because there's 3 creatures in the room and there's actually 6 of us now, technically I would have gotten 3 extra dice, and so would you have.
I see.
All right?
I actually like that. I mean, because I was wondering at that point, like, there's only 2 of us and 3 of them, and if we're losing 2 courage every single attack roll, like, we're gonna run out of the building before we even finish. So having that would be, yeah, I can see that would be good.
Well, by defeating creatures, you will get courage back, though, so keep that in mind.
Okay, gotcha. Now, does that affect everyone in the room or only the one that did the kill?
It affects everyone in the room. So
Okay.
Stick together. So it helps out. So, like, for instance, when you defeat this creature on your turn, you're going to gain courage, regain courage, equal to half the creature's courage value, rounded up, and I'm going to regain also the same. And because you actually defeated the creature yourself, you gain an extra +1. So you begin to regain courage and go higher and higher.
So I would get, if I killed him, I would gain 2, and you would gain 1 because half of 2 is 1.
That's correct.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so I guess for my last action, then I'll use my rifle again, and I get 6 dice plus 3 because of the outnumber bonus. So
That's right.
9 dice. All right, so I'll just roll these, and here's hoping. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5. I have 5 successes.
You super killed him. You super defeated him. He only had 2 hit points left.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't lose courage again. You only ever lose courage the first time you fight each individual creature.
Okay.
So he's defeated. We're going to throw him off the table. We're going to both get courage. You gain 2, I gain 1, and the spirit track goes up 3.
I see. And you said the spirit track is used as like a currency to buy things, or?
Right, yeah, so there's going to be a menu in the game. I don't have it in Tabletop Simulator. It's technically on the back of this rulebook. It's the older version. It's going to be a little different in the final game.
Okay.
But there are things that you can buy using these spirit shards. So if you look here, there's like a little menu here, the Soulmonger Service. And you can spend spirits to do different things, like get bonuses, heal, get extra stuff, heal status effects, get health, all that stuff. There'll also be some special items and things you could do. So that's all part of the game. So that's kind of an interesting little mechanic. Also, the individual spirits like Cleopatra that'll be in the game coming up, they'll have their own unique special abilities too. So every scenario will have unique abilities based on these spirits.
Awesome. Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah. So then we would keep fighting these guys.
Okay.
And once we knock them out, we'll get that Staff of Ra. Did you want to keep fighting?
It's up to you. How much time do you have? Because I know you've got some place to be, right?
Yeah, no, I don't have tons of time, but if you wanted to try a couple more combats, we can, or if there's questions or something specific you want to see,
well,
I'll be happy to do that too.
Okay, so I would love to see more into the scenario. So let's just assume for the fact that we collected everything that we needed to collect, and we found the tomb. At that point, is there like an end game? I'm guessing that was part of the scenario description then.
Yeah, so here's what happens in this particular scenario. And again, every scenario is different. So after we defeat these guys, we get the Staff of Ra. The next time we find a scenario trigger 2 room or 3 room, we would then get the second potent talisman, the Ruby Scarab. And then we would have to fight some other monsters, some carnivorous scarabs, which are cool. They're swarm monsters.
Okay.
Then after that, we have one more big combat against the Sphinxes. And once we defeat the Sphinxes, we would get the third potent talisman to Calvinubis. Now, it's not required to have these to win the game in this particular scenario, but they help a lot. So after 6 rounds, we're hoping we have most of those. After 6 rounds, approximately, we get this up to here. Boom. And then Raz Azula Hamet himself will spawn. It says read 3.1 when he awakens. So we would go into 3.1. We'd read his rules. There's a little story. There's some rules. We'd spawn him in the farthest room in the Mongols' hall. So somewhere in level 3, he would spawn.
Okay, gotcha.
When he spawns, on his turn, every turn, he's going to try to run out of the tomb. Okay, so he would walk like this because he has a 4 movement. So he would go 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, if there's a player in the way, he stops. So if you were here and he goes 1, 2, he would stop here and he would try to fight you. Okay?
Okay.
That's what he does. So he will not leave if someone's in the way. He has to try to fight you. But if you get killed or you run away or you leave or he's left alone, he will walk out. And if he walks out the front door, he wins. Obviously, if he defeats all the players, he also wins.
Okay. So, and his health, I'm assuming, is that red 33 on the top there?
Right, yeah.
Okay, and the artifacts that we get, I'm assuming, is going to... Because his stats are insane. So, I'm guessing those artifacts will help us against him specifically? Or...
Yeah, so the of Ra is actually a Mythos weapon. It says knowledge. It's actually a Mythos weapon. So the Staff of Ra gives you +5 to Mythos to attack, and it has a 3-use special ability that when you use it, you can turn it once per round, and you can get +10 combat against undead and horror creatures. Okay, so he would get 15 dice against Raz Azul for using this item. Okay.
Okay.
And then also for each item you have, you see here in rules for Raz, if you have the Staff of Ra in the same room as him, his combat rating is reduced by 5. If you have the Ruby Scarab, he cannot trigger special abilities, and you have the Cowl Anubis, he cannot perform his courage attack at all. So by having these things, not only does it make you more powerful as a character, but it also makes it easier to defeat Raz Azul, and that's the point.
Cool.
Right? But you could technically, if you're lucky, beat him with potentially without any of them, or just some of them. It's still possible.
If one player has the artifact and the other player's in the room fighting Ra, does the other player get the bonus, or only the player holding the artifact?
The artifacts disempower Raz Azul on their own.
I see.
And then these things, whoever is controlling them, they give the person the bonus they say on the card.
I see. Okay, gotcha. And you also mentioned, like, at the end of our 6 actions, there's some kind of event deck. And I'm guessing that'll be spawning creatures or doing other nasty things?
Yeah, so this is the tomb card, like I was saying. At the end of all of our actions, once you and I have spent all 12 actions together, we would draw this as a tomb card. Every tomb card's unique. This particular one has a tomb effect. It's actually positive. This one says first player may draw an item from the discard pile. You'd actually get something. You'd get like a gun or a knife, which is cool. Then we would move creatures if there were any. Creatures don't move unless unless they're left alone. So if you're in the room with creatures, they'll stay in the room with you. Except for Raz Azul, who really wants to leave, but he will also stop when you're in the room.
Okay.
Then we would spawn new creatures. So if you don't explore a level, creatures cannot spawn there. So level 3, nothing would spawn. Level 1, we would spawn 1 base creature. On level 1, creatures spawn on misadventure rooms and trap rooms, and they're usually outlined in red. The prototype doesn't show that yet, but it would be outlined in red, so you know easily where you could possibly spawn creatures. We would spawn a random creature in that room. Okay. They don't move or combat, though. Creatures spawn after the move and combat phase, so you're never going to get the end of the round and suddenly you get swarmed. You're always going to know strategically that creatures are there and that they're going to come after you and have a chance to deal with them if you want, if able, in between rounds. Now, this creature that spawns a random creature, you don't need to fight him. There's nothing in the game that says you have to beat him.
Okay.
But these here, it says you need to get in. If you want to get the Staff of Ra, you have to fight them and beat them for that.
Makes sense.
As a for instance, but that's a scenario effect. These guys are going to just roam around and try to get you, right, in the tomb.
All right.
Then we'd have upkeep. So for our weapons, like that have upkeep, we deal with the upkeep, or status effects, or whatever that says upkeep, we deal with the upkeep stuff. The search mechanic here, ignore that. That's an old mechanic that's removed from the game.
Okay.
And then number 7 is combat track +1. And again, like I said, every time you have a story card, a tomb card, it's going to tell you to raise the combat track. That particular one said 1. This one also says 1, and so on. Some of them are harder. They'll say 2. Some of them might, if you're really lucky, say 0, but that's very rare.
Gotcha. Are there ways to adjust the difficulty? Like, I'm a big homebrew kind of person. Some people hate that. But to make the game more casual, could you, for example, instead of doing 6 rounds, make it 7 or 8 rounds, give yourself more time to explore, have fun? Are those options available typically, or any ones in specific that you would recommend or that are in the rulebook?
Absolutely. I'm a big story mode person. As I gotten older in life, I like to get through the full story of a game, not struggle. That's how I like to play personally.
Me too.
So you can scale a game to make it easier by basically adding extra audacity or companions.
Okay.
I don't recommend usually adding extra rounds, but of course you could do that if you wanted to. Because you don't necessarily want to make the game longer, because you might be well ready to potentially win the game and get the story and stuff with these extra bonuses. So by having extra companions and or extra audacity, it'll make the game a lot easier. Okay. So you can do that very easily to scale the game. And the final game will have an extra chart there. It'll give you some ideas on how to make it a little bit extra story mode. Also, the spirits and adding extra spirit currency, having extra of that will also help you in the game a lot. It'll be another way to scale the game and make it easier, because you'll have these spirits. They're going to have really cool special abilities. So 1 spirit ability in this one, and she also has a story. not going to read it right now, but I'm just going to tell you what it does.
Mm-hmm.
Cleopatra's father was killed by Ra's al Ghul thousands of years ago, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So she always wanted to get revenge against him. So when the spirit monger, a good guy who lives in the tomb, he's like attached to the tomb magically, he's here to help us, the Eternal Order of Perseus. He sees us come in, he summons her, and basically she's there to help. If we spend currency with her, she can help us find tiles in the tile stack in this scenario. She can also add ways to automatically succeed on stuff for a certain amount of spirits. And at the end of the scenario, when Ra's spawns, we can spend 15 spirits to actually bring her out to haunt Ra's al Ghul. So then she would leave this area, she would actually come onto the board, which is cool, and she'll just deal him 5 damage every round.
That's awesome.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. That's kind of like a neat thing that she does as well.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you taking me through all of this. So because this is being crowdfunded, are there like certain stretch goals that you guys have met at this point? I mean, I'll probably show that on the video anyway, but are there any cool unlocks that are unique to this campaign that retailers wouldn't typically get? Or
yeah, it's a great question. You know, the game in general, on the GameFound campaign, we have a ton of exclusives. We do that because it's very hard to get lots of expansions into retail stores.
Mm-hmm.
They often just can't carry that many. We have 16 expansions in the game. Each one has new scenarios, new story cards, new monsters, new items, artifacts, all kinds of stuff that add to the variation of the game, making it even more replayable. So the game itself, the pledges that have expansions they're all going to be exclusive through us, and we don't print giant print runs because we're a smaller company. Even though it looks like we have a huge funding level and we're very happy with our fans and how amazing they're being, we still don't have tons and tons of funding to print unlimited games. So we're going to print as many as we can. And generally speaking, if you're able to back the Kickstarter, the GameFound campaign, you'll be able to get all those things. And if we have some extras, we might make them. But we always discount them heavily inside of the campaign as well. So that's important. We've hit over 24 stretch goals already. So it's really awesome. We've done very, very well. We're very, very happy about it and excited to jump into starting to do all the final development and work on the stories. Upcoming, we have a really cool new stretch goal for a giant tomb box sleeve. So you can actually turn your all-in box into a giant tomb, which will be really cool and look fun. And we're also giving away some new scenarios and new characters coming up. So there's a lot of stuff that you can get in the campaign. We love to give really cool stuff to our backers. So we really appreciate the support.
That's awesome. Yeah, what I've played so far, and again, we didn't play a full game, which is fine. I really like. Again, I'm seeing a lot of similarities here to other tile exploration games I've played, but yours definitely is very thematic. We love the Indiana Jones explore a temple, traps. Like we love that theme. So we would most definitely enjoy this game. So based on what we've played, based on what we've played so far, like this was a lot of fun. So how many scenarios are in the core game compared to the expansions?
The core game will have 13 scenarios. The core pledges come with an extra expansion called the secret expansion. And then there's 4 scenarios. And every expansion has approximately 4 scenarios or more in it. So with 16 expansions and the core game is going to be nearly 80 scenarios, which is a lot.
Yeah, yeah. And considering that you can, I'm assuming that as you said there's going to be new characters being unlocked and the like. I'm assuming that you can use any character with any scenario, or are there certain characters tied to certain scenarios?
No, you can use any character in any scenario. Some scenarios might say, hey, it'd be cool if you brought so-and-so. Okay. But generally speaking, you bring any character. And often characters are also turned into companion cards so that you can, if you wanted to thematically represent a specific character in a scenario, you could bring them in as a companion, which is cool thematically. The variation is, as I said, very, very big. So all the tiles, every expansion also includes more tiles. The core game will have over 50 tiles. Mm-hmm. Each expansion will add somewhere around 3 or 4 tiles. And then we have tile packs. Some of them will give you 20 or more tiles. So by the end of the campaign and all the expansions, it'll be over 100 plus tiles that you can go through. They're all unique.
That's awesome.
So yeah, there's a lot of content and a lot of replayability. The only things that aren't really reused are the bosses, but that's because they're very heavily tied to their own stories.
Right, it makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to show me all of this. I know it's a lot of work and stuff, but I can tell just the way you narrate, you're very passionate about this. So, and that's great. Telling that story while you're playing gives that game that extra oomph that most games are lacking nowadays. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate you.